The cat's out the bag, y'all. Get in here, get in here, get in here. I moved from South Africa to Brazil. So let me tell you why. I'm not going to delay. I moved from South Africa to Brazil because I am an introvert and I could not live my introverted life in South Africa. Y'all love me too much in South Africa. Let me be real with you. So, a lot of people don't understand and don't accept this when I say I'm an introvert, but I really am an introvert. I've been knowing me for 40 years. I guarantee you, I'm the expert on me. I'm an introvert. I've always been that way. I'm just an introvert who happens to be an entertainer and who loves speaking and motivating people. So I've built my career in a very public way, and I enjoy being on camera and enjoy being on stage. But once that camera cuts off, and once I step off a stage, I love my introverted life with my small handful of friends and living a comfortable life where I really don't have to interact a whole lot with a lot of people. That's just who I am. And so I could not live the way I'm comfortable living in South Africa because South Africa is my number 2 market when it comes to viewership. So the US is number 1, but right behind the US is South Africa. I didn't realize that when I moved to South Africa. And I know you're wondering, like, how did you not realize that? Well, I realized it in terms of just seeing it on paper, because I would see it on paper for years. I always knew that, I remember my mother was the one who first exposed me to that, because for a long time, my mother, as my business was growing, she was the one who was answering the messages when you send an email into the company or something like that. It was my mom who was reading them and forwarding to me the messages and stuff like that. And she said, you have a lot of viewers in South Africa. But because the US has millions and millions of viewers there, and South Africa didn't have millions of viewers, I thought, we can still move to South Africa, because we were looking for a place that we wanted to try. South Africa seemed like a really great option. It's stunningly beautiful. It's extremely modern. Coming from the US, it was very affordable for us. It has so many great benefits. And so I was like, South Africa would be a great place to live. And yeah, sure, we've got some viewers there, but I said, South Africa's got tens and tens of millions of people there. So, in comparison to the number of viewers we have, it's nothing like the US. I'm sure it'll be fine. It won't be a big deal. That was not the case. When we first got to South Africa, I will own this. It was a very privileged position to be in, to be moving to a country where so many people know your face and know your name and love your work. Because when it came time to look for an apartment, when it came time to make friends, when it came time to go get even just restaurant reservations, that privilege opened a lot of doors. I cannot deny that. It was so wonderful. I loved it for that aspect of it. And the people of South Africa are just so kind and so warm and so sweet. I remember when people would come up and ask to take pictures, they would come up and then after they take the picture, they'd always say something really warm, like, I'm wishing you the best life. I'm wishing you overflowing blessings. Like, they pour their heart onto you. South Africans are unmatched when it comes to that. And so in the beginning, that felt really good. But I think that after the novelty of being in a new place started to wear off and I had to figure out how to build a life, I realized that for me, I couldn't be as introverted as I like to be, because when I would go out to dinner, not every time, but a lot of the time, people would want to come up and take pictures, which is very flattering. I appreciate that. I do very public work, so obviously I know that that's what comes with it. But it kind of wore thin on me after a while. Not that anyone was ever rude. They were always very nice, but I just wanted the experience of not doing that every day. Dating, because at the time in South Africa, I was single for most of my time there. And so when I first got there and was dating, that was really tough because, when you meet people, they're like, I can't believe I'm meeting you. And I'm like, oh, you see my work. You see my work. And that just is the reality. But maybe I was naive, but I just I don't necessarily get a thrill out of dating people who get excited about my work in that way. I don't talk much about my relationships. But for the time I've been on camera, the people who I've been with have usually been people who are in the entertainment industry and therefore they're kind of numb to this stuff, or people who just are so removed from the entertainment industry that they just like, I don't care. And so for me, that was kind of tough because you start to question your privacy. and all that when you're around someone who's so excited about that, or or you go on a date and people post about it afterwards. This happened to me. I remember this happened to me. This was probably one of the most startling realizations that I'm not sure if this place is going to work for me when I was in South Africa. And there was a guy I went on a date with. This happened twice, actually. Two different men went on a date, and afterwards he posted my profile photo. Like, he took a screenshot of my profile and says, "Guess who I'm on a date with right now?" And points, and it is my profile photo at that point in time. And he wasn't saying anything bad about me. I think he was saying because he was excited about it. I thought that was wildly inappropriate. And I confronted him. I was like, "Can you take that down? Like, why would you post that? Like, what did you think I would view you as?" But I realized, oh, he didn't go on a date with me because he wanted to be on a date with me. He went on a date with me because he wanted to be able to post about it. It was not about me. And so imagine a life where you're having those types of experiences. You see what I'm saying? Not just in your dating life, but in other spaces. And I know that there are many, many, many famous people all around the world, and they learn how to deal with that kind of stuff. And there are people who are way more famous than me who have learned how to navigate that, but we're all individuals, and I'm an introvert and I didn't like it. And so I found a way to kind of live within it, because I, found a really good friend there, and I would hang out with him pretty much all the time. I made my circle very small, but I realized I was shrinking my life and living kind of in a very closed kind of life, not because I wanted to live that way, but because it was the only way I felt comfortable. And after a while, my nephew's sons, they, decided that they wanted to live elsewhere. I don't think they had any issues with South Africa specifically. I just think that they just wanted a different experience. By this time, they each were, I want to say, 20 years old. And so they were old enough to say where they wanted to live. Marco, my nephew's son, wanted to go back to Bali, which is where we had lived prior to South Africa. My nephew's son, DJ, he wanted to go to the States. So it was fine. So I was there by myself at that point. I had some friends. And I remember Marco called me, and he said to me, "Unc, are you enjoying your life in South Africa?" Like, I said, "Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful." And, he knows me. I'm the person who I can make the most out of anything, And South Africa is a beautiful place. So you didn't have to work hard to make the most out of it. It's a wonderful place. But I'm someone who, no matter what's going on, I can make the most of it. And he knows me, so he pushed harder. He said, "No, Unc, I'm serious. Like, are you comfortable?" He said, "When we go out to dinner there, people always want to take your picture." He's like, "And I know you don't always enjoy that kind of experience. Like, you don't leave the house very much, because you like to be, that's the only place you feel comfortable. Like, are you sure that you're comfortable?" And I said, "Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure." I said, "I'm making the most of it. We've got great business opportunities here in South Africa. Things are good. So, whatever." And he said, "Well, just think about it. You don't have to stay there if you don't want to." I thought about it. But it was actually my grandmother, who, you've heard a lot about her in my videos, very close to her. She was the one who really helped push me in a lot of ways. Her and my mother particularly, but it was my grandmother who had this conversation with me. I was saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing some traveling. My lease here in South Africa is about to end. I'm thinking about doing some traveling just to kind of just to get away. I just kind of want to break from it right now. And I just want to travel." And so I'm a very, very, I'm not going to call myself a cheap person. I wouldn't call myself that. I called myself that the other day, but someone said, "Don't call yourself cheap." I'm frugal. 1 + 1 has to equal 2. Okay. I'm 40, I'm middle-aged. So I'm all about building my financial freedom journey. I'll talk to you more about that for your journey as well in future videos, but that's me. So I was like, well, because I don't have rent to pay in South Africa, I can take that money and maybe use that to travel with for a little. 1 + 1 = 2. And so I was thinking about that, and I said, okay. And it's amazing how when you put a thought out there to God, some people call it the universe, when you put a thought out there, it's amazing how abundance and opportunities comes to you. Because I remember I thought about that, and then no more than a week or two later, I got a message from a good friend of mine. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to be in Brazil. You want to come visit?" And I thought to myself, Brazil? I never thought about going to Brazil at all. I really didn't know anything about Brazil. I knew nothing about Brazil. In school, I just remember learning about Carnival in Brazil. And I remember seeing the big Jesus statue, in Rio de Janeiro. I never knew anything about Brazil. I didn't know to like it or not like it. I didn't know anything about it. But I thought to myself, well, I really don't have a plan to go anywhere else right now. My lease has ended. Might as well go. So I go to Brazil, and I just figured I got a friend there. He'll help me navigate. He's going to be there at least a month. So I plan to be in Brazil maybe at least a month. I didn't know how long, maybe shorter than that. And when I got to Brazil, pretty quickly, I realized that this was the place for me. Now, no place is perfect for everybody. This is not a video to sell you on Brazil in any way, shape, or form, because I don't know what you like or what you won't like. So this is not the purpose of that video. When I got to Brazil, it worked for me because for the first time in a long time, I was living in a place where I could walk down the street and nobody knew me. I could walk in a room full of black people and not one of them would even turn their head to look at me. You know, my audience is largely black women, and I appreciate and love it. I appreciate and love y'all so much. But in my life previous to Brazil, especially living in the US and South Africa, if I walked in a room and there was 5 black women in there, at least 3 of them knew who I was. But in Brazil, I could walk into a restaurant, you know, I didn't speak no Portuguese at the time, and sit there and have my meal, and nobody was staring at me, nobody was tapping me on the shoulder saying, hey, can I have a photo with you? Or can I sit down beside you and talk for you for 20 minutes about the trauma you helped me work through, which is very, very endearing. But imagine when you're an introvert and you just want to have a meal and someone is talking about their life and how you helped them, and you're too nice to tell them, can I just eat my meal? Because I never want to be one of those types of people who won't take pictures with fans or won't listen to them. I never want to be those types of people. So sometimes it could be very uncomfortable in those situations. But in Brazil, I didn't experience that. I remember when I first got to Brazil, I didn't speak any Portuguese whatsoever, and it was tough just to eat. I would eat at buffets every day for my first 3 months in Brazil, because I just kept extending my trip. I didn't think I was going to live here. I just kept extending it because it felt so good. I didn't want to leave. And I would eat at buffets because that was the only place where I didn't have to try to read a menu that wasn't in English. It was literally like that. But over time, I started to connect with other expats from different countries who were English speaking in Brazil, and they kind of helped show me the ropes. I started meeting Brazilians, and it's so crazy because my closest friends that I met in Brazil, that I've met here so far, none of them speak English. None of them really speak English, no. So I was building friendships with people who spoke Portuguese, and they would teach me. And sometimes we go out and we couldn't really communicate with our words. We were using Google Translate the whole time, but that became our thing. And after a while, you start to learn some words here or there. And it grew, and I started to learn Portuguese. And I'll do another video teaching you how to learn Portuguese. It's just about my overall journey, because this journey, being an expat and living in Brazil, is not just about coming here because I'm an introvert. It's also been a path of building towards my retirement planning and everything like that. There's so much that has been a part of this journey, and I'll share that with you because I think this information can help you. But over time, Brazil just felt comfortable for me in such an amazing way because it fit my life and how I wanted to live. It was the blessing that I didn't even know that I needed. And at a certain point in time, I got tired of going from of extending my trip, and my grandmother at the time was passing away. At the time, she had had a stroke, and we realized that she had cancer, and she was declining quickly. And I called her this one particular day, and I had this is my charger, but I had I called her on WhatsApp, and I had the video up, and I was like, Grandma, look at my view, and I was showing her the view in Brazil, like I was showing her the view off the balcony. And she couldn't talk very well because the stroke had affected her. You know, she had like paralysis, so to speak, where she couldn't speak as well. And she was on very strong medicine as well because of just managing pain. And she said to me, stay there, baby. I said, yeah. I said, but I don't speak Portuguese. And she said, so? You can learn it. I said, but but I live in South Africa. She said, you ain't got no apartment there no more. Stay there. You look happy. Finally. And she was just talking. It was taking everything out of her to say it. You look happy. Finally. Because she had been there on the journey with me from when I shot the first video to up to there. She had been, I call her all the time, tell her about everything. She knew about the ups and the downs. She knew about everything. Baby, life's too short. Life's too short for you not to keep doing the things that make you happy. Ain't nothing wrong with South Africa. It's still going to be there if you want to go back. But you look happier here. Stay where you're happy. And keep staying where you're happy. That's all you got to do in life. Just stay where you're happy. And here I am now. Eu falo português. Eu moro no Brasil. I have built a life here. I said I speak Portuguese. I live in Brazil. I'm happy. My life isn't perfect. Whose is? But I'm happy. And that's why I chose to leave South Africa for Brazil. There was nothing wrong with South Africa. South Africa is an amazingly beautiful place with amazingly beautiful people, amazingly beautiful opportunities. I would encourage, if someone's considering other countries to live in, I would highly encourage South Africa. I would love to do even more videos to share with you about South Africa, because I was just there a little over a month ago visiting. Like, I love South Africa. But for me, based on my unique experience in my life, Brazil was just a better fit for me. So that's why I left South Africa and moved to Brazil.